appears to be.
Got our new sound system.
Well, yeah.
So we don't have any extra agendas, huh?
You don't have a copied agenda?
I gave you mine.
Oh,
You're on, Dan. You're on.
oh, all right.
Everything's good.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Monday, May 24, 2021 meeting of the Audit Committee. All of our members are present. We'll have a roll call later, but we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag. Would ask to go in the room and state your name for the record for the roll call.
Brian Thomas.
Cody. John Goggin.
Ann Hughes.
Ed Lombard.
Jim Steele. Joe Kirkbride.
And we also have present the Honorable Raymond Murphy and Craig Steinhoff. Craig Steinhoff, and the young lady is right. Nice having you with us. Thank you. First order of business is to approve the minutes of February 8th.
Chairman, I think your statute of limitations has almost run out on my memory of this meeting, but I move the minutes be approved as presented.
Second, Cody.
Discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Unopposed, those minutes are approved. Public comment, I see none. All right. Well, I'll call on Craig at this time then.
Thank you so much, Ray.
caveat of the way that I explain them to you, and then they look that way, you'll be are the auditor's reports that I typically, my audit clients are, that's the only thing in this report that doesn't belong to you is the auditor's report. Auditors, they have what they and modified or formally unqualified report. That said, besides the attorney item that goes back. That is auditors and myself, better term, including over some of the adjustment, the original trial balance that they audit adjustments. Of 27 of those were brought to the auditors from the town. Therefore, the auditors that a comment was warranted. However, the dispute is knew that adjustments were necessary. We brought them to the auditor's attention before they were fit to books and records when that. So that is something that. Let's see, all of that said, I don't know, questions that, look at it, even though some pages are missing, it's pages and having us to review it. The highlights are typically, I'm not going to, bring up, what these numbers say, although COVID was another reason why our financials, it's taking longer. Now, I mentioned the 33 audit adjustments, of which 27 were proposed by staff. About half of what it was in the previous. I don't know if any of this audit committee for years, but there were I think 60 audit adjustments prior financial. Found significant of those ones that were proposed by the audit that you have I'm told it's not going to be a modified clean opinion, if you will. Then there is the ironing out of some findings. One of those is our water and stormwater utilities being an enterprise fund, you treat those on the full accrual basis of accounting. There are some things that are treated on modified accrual to the other departments. So there were some things that, were shown as a revenue line item that got moved to a liability. So I need to. The second were due to as part of the audit. Really minor thing. The reason why we have Ms. Sherry Russ here is because getting additional make sure that, this audit doesn't drag out the way that it has historically. We got good solid working control oversight of the people. So with that said, I wasn't planning on going through page by page on this audit. I think you should think about that. I can give you some of the highlights of it. As far as it's a little different than a typical for-profit audit financial statement that you may look at. It starts with the MD&A, the management's analysis, opportunity. How did the town do compared with the last fiscal year? Items were up. Fees, certain other performance of it, but all in the town had a positive year. The auditors with that. The rest of the financial statements are very similar to how they've been presented in the past. There's no new accounting or auditing standards that would necessitate. Master what we have.
Mr. Chairman, could I ask a question?
Certainly.
That MD&A was not included in the email that I received anyway. Did anybody get the MD&A? Well, yeah, we got that this morning, but I didn't get the MD&A. It's not in the email that was submitted to us.
That's my apologies if that.
I mean, and the other thing is, I don't know how we can accept this report without the full reports from the auditors and their findings and some of their recommendations. I don't know how we can accept it with just numbers. So that's my comment.
Well, I don't want to interrupt Dick's train of thought, which I think is a good one, and I associate myself with it. I just have a fundamental question. I got this in the email this morning. One's about twice as size, twice as thick as the other. What's the difference? Oh, I see. This is the one-sided, and this is two sides. Maybe that explains it. But the fundamental question: are they the same documents? Email this morning.
Email.
Is it?
Notes, but I didn't get the management.
This was on the.
What page would I find that on?
That's right here. Under the table of contents.
Yeah, it was on here today.
We walked in.
It wasn't on the email.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Table of contents. Oh, I see.
So it's a little confusing.
Dan,
Yes, Jim.
here's what was emailed. What was emailed missed pages 1 through 9, pages 51 through 60, pages 46 through 49 were missing. Document you have today includes many of those pages. However, today's document misses pages 46 through 49, 52 through 55, 57 through 60. There are still some missing pages, which Craig explained.
Well, what we got today, Jim, I don't have a management discussion and analysis. I don't have,
Well, I mentioned the pages that were missing. There are, some of those pages
well,
are missing.
that begins on page 3, though. I didn't hear you say page 3 was missing.
I got page 3.
It's in
Page three
pages,
is
in
Pages 3
today's.
through 10 are missing, and I don't have
It's in
pages.
today's. Page 3 is in today's.
Somebody just handed this to me. And that's the one I got in the email. I printed this myself. Oh, okay.
It's in there. You may get to switch or something.
Okay.
So the auditors have said, since they did not receive the attorney letter, they're not willing to provide even, stamped as draft, their auditor's report. Because, say that attorney letter came with, for some reason, some type of, liability or obligation that was unknown at the time that they finished their field work, obviously their reports would change. I have no reason to believe that it would include anything like that, so that's why the auditors were not ready to include their reports in here, stamped as
How long
draft.
ago did the request for the lawyer's letter go out?
Ask that
I
question,
mean,
Dick.
we've been sitting here for months and months. Now we're waiting for the lawyer's letter?
When was it requested?
It was requested probably a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. This was also at the same time that we were, making our disputes on the findings.
You're going to get those resolved? Are
Yeah,
they
actually,
resolvable?
while we were standing here, Robert Lang called my cell phone, so I have reason to believe that he's available to get this done. Yeah.
Dan?
Jim?
The audit that was emailed, the audit that we have today, the updated one, pages 10 through 16, totals are different.
No.
Yes, they are. Look at the one that was emailed and the one that was sent, the totals on pages 10 through 16 are different. That's because there was a change in cash and cash equivalents of $14,321. That change was made since we received those in the email.
That's news to me.
They sure are different, you're right.
They are different.
14,000.
$14,321. Okay, and it is, the difference is all in cash and cash equivalents on government funds, not the water. A couple other items that we need to think about are on, if you look at page 20, which is the water fund and the stormwater fund. And you look at liabilities, water fund, current liabilities, which notes payable due within 1 year, $918,712. That's made up of two separate liabilities. The state revolving loan fund is one liability, and then we bought the utility from Lee County is another liability. There's two liabilities in there. And if you look at the 918,782, the current liability for this year, pay back Lee County is $193,032. The state revolving loan fund current liability is $725,680. Now, if you look at the long-term liability, which is $22,496,86, and you pull out the remaining part of the note due to Lee County, makes the state revolving loan fund $21,931,039. It doesn't seem to make sense that the difference is that way, because your total liability is larger this year than it was last year because you continue to borrow. When is the stormwater utility shows no liability this year? If you look at a cash flow analysis that was done in 2017 based upon revolving loan fund borrowings, there should have been a payment due in the year ending 9/30/19, but at least $393,000, unless the state revolving loan fund has been renegotiated and they changed the due dates. That's, I don't know. Did the state revolving loan fund change due dates of when things were due?
This year?
Well, there should have been then a long-term, payable due within 1 year for stormwater, and this shows none.
Where would,
The stormwater fund liabilities.
Right.
Notes payable due within 1 year is zero.
right,
Well, they owed,
okay,
this was a projection done back in 2017. They owed $393,833. The year ending 9/30/19, and for the year ending 9/30/20, they owed another $706,399. So that's like $1,000,001. This shows zero. It just doesn't make sense.
Notes payable due in 1 year for the water fund is
No,
918,000.
stormwater,
Stormwater.
stormwater.
Well, you know, I read somewhere in this, in the statement, the stormwater, that the revolving fund loan for stormwater doesn't have to begin to be repaid until the last draw on the revolving fund. That hasn't been made yet. Is that not true?
That's not true. Once you start borrowing, our first borrowing was in 2017, $6,426,000. You have to start paying that back after a year and a half.
Well, it makes sense to me. Maybe I missed this.
No, that's the way
I
I
thought I
read it.
read the same thing.
Here's the way it read.
Is the way it read, John? So I read it right.
Yeah, because I read the
Right.
same thing.
Well, then they must have renegotiated the loan with the state revolving loan fund.
Somewhere in here, Jim, it says, don't pay it until the last draw on a revolving fund, then you negotiate the payments. That's what it says. I'm just telling you what it says. I'm not-
What page
not
is that
making it
on?
up.
Page 36
Got me.
talks about the SRF loan.
page what?
36, note 7. Principal and interest will be payable commencing upon the project completion.
Okay, that's my mistake then. You renegotiated that, and you don't start paying until the loan is fully funded. Okay. My bad.
All right, it's a good discussion.
Yeah, well, that's,
Glad we got that cleared up.
yeah, because that's,
You wanted to say something?
That was by the rate consultant. Contemplating.
Would you repeat? I didn't follow what he just said. Oh,
Use the
that's
microphone. We do have.
our manager.
So one of the things that we did was,
we talked to the state so that if we had a loan for the first phase, for example, of Facility Boulevard, when that phase closed, we didn't close that loan. We asked the state if they would let us change order that project, phase 2 and phase 3 and so on. Net effect of that is that it kept that loan open longer, therefore it pushed out the date that the first payment was due. So it helped us two ways. Just by letting us change order the loan and therefore change order the contract, froze the contract prices at earlier date, and most of you may know construction prices have been going through the roof the last couple of years. But it helped us that way, and it also deferred when the first payment was due to the state. But as all of you know, our interest rates are like at 1 or less, so there's no sort of burning desire from the state to get this money back, as long as they're having adequate funds to meet the needs of new demands from new governments. Revolving loan. So all of those reasons, the State Board of Governors, who look at their overall SRF loan package, pushed down this flexibility to municipal governments, and we were able to take advantage of it.
Follow-up question. If you did it for the stormwater utility, why didn't you do it for the water utility? And then they wouldn't have to be paying until the loan was complete.
Well, we asked the state, and every time we ask them if we can do that, because frankly, it's easier on us for a variety of reasons I've just mentioned. We ask them, and sometimes they say yes, and sometimes they take no, and you take the balls and the strikes as they're called.
They declined your proposal.
They kept, because the water loan started sooner, they felt like it was getting aged, and they wanted sort of to as you well know. And the question that was asked is, why did it take the attorney so long? Frankly, only because of conflicting priorities. The town is involved in a variety of different types of legal litigation with different people, and those court cases and those dates, those hearings, unfortunately, take precedent over this. And the attorney acknowledged over late last week that he understands that now, because of the length of time, this is now the priority. But as Craig said, there is nothing that we know about that will, from a legal standpoint, that will change what you're looking at today. I want to say one other thing. Partner that the firm to do the field work here in person in town interviews me as part of sort of their process. So that person was here, I'm going to say, in late March or early April. During my interview, of course, after I answered her questions that I didn't know of any irregularities or anything that they learned about, I asked her how we were doing relative to last year, because she was on the team last year as well. It's fine. We have every single thing we need. Everything's great. It's been much better this year than last year. So the reason I'm relating this to you is that you understand that when I met with the auditors face to face, March, early April, they made to me that much better than last year. They had everything they needed. So I'm somewhat perplexed, as much as you may be, is why we're here at the tail end of May.
Did that conversation take place before or after the 27 adjustments you made?
I believe what happened was, and I don't know this to be a fact yet, so this is just sort of my understanding of what transpired, but not necessarily, I can't absolutely guarantee it's 100% factual. The auditor set a window to do these in-person field work, as you all know. And when we set that date with them, and it was scheduled out, and we set a date with them, and they were to come in and do their field work. We discussed with them that these entries had to be done, and they want to wait for us to do them and then give them an adjusted balance, or did they want to do them? So they wouldn't have to sort of test it twice. I understand they said, well, we'll do it. So it was done, what I believe was in a collaborative thought of trying to expedite getting the audit done. Not as a gotcha. I'm not going to speak for them.
Craig, Harry, what's your title? Accounting manager, okay.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, may I make a comment?
Certainly.
Craig, your role, how long is it intended to last, and are we looking for another finance director?
My role is to be determined, I'd say, as far as how long it should last. I've been here probably the latter part of March till now, you know, sporadically. I may come 1 day a week, 2 days a week, and part of it was finding a full-time individual like Sherry, and I don't think you need a full-time finance director. I think somebody can fill the role part-time, but there is definitely a need for leadership. So, you know, Roger and I have had discussions on that, and you know, I think it's still to be determined. I think step one was try to get through, you know, this audit, but as you can see, when we have, you know, 3 individuals and all these moving parts, you know, from the town side, it's difficult. So I came to you today with what I, you know, hoped would be a recommendation. I'll take that off the table and look to you for another or better recommendation. I tried to do this as well because I know that, you know, some of you gentlemen might be, you know, leaving town and going up north and wanted to at least, you know, get something solidified before that happened. And so we might not have that luxury if we, you know, try to move forward without some type of acceptance today.
The answer to your question is we're recruiting for a director, okay? And we're recruiting for senior accountants, and we're recruiting for accountants, and we're recruiting for account payable clerk, because the way I really look at this is kind of like it's a NFL team. Look for every opportunity to strengthen your team. And we're to continue to look for people to, we have basically a Super Bowl competitive type team of the finance department. Well, we have some good hardworking people, constantly looking for people to upgrade. And if we find the right people, we'll be hiring them.
Are you still, so you're recruiting for a finance director?
Yes.
Part-time or full-time?
We have it as full-time, but a lot of times we will have people who will contact us and apply and for a lot of these jobs and say, I'm available part-time, and I help you. We had someone do that in one of our other positions, non-finance positions, saying, getting older, I would like to work, but I don't want to work full-time. Do you know, full-time position offered in your education department? So you're thinking about hiring part-time people. So we keep those people on file because sometimes when even though we want a full-time person, we can't get one, and we get to hire somebody being provided, so we'll try to hire 2 good part-time people.
You know, look, I don't want to tell you or anybody how to do their job. Or my own personal observation is finance director's job in a town such as Fort Myers Beach or a comparable size is really an important job. Important job regardless of whatever. You wouldn't have a finance director. It's not only important from the standpoint of providing technical expertise and supervision, but for the continuity of the staff. You bring people in and people relate to that finance director, and all of a sudden he's missing 4 days a week or 5 days a week or 3 days or whatever it is.
I agree with you,
My
Ed.
personal opinion is go for the full-time staff director. We can afford it. That's my personal.
And that's my position too. And to be honest with you, and with no disrespect to Craig, the reason I really feel that way is, I give a lot of deference to what one of your colleagues, Ed, Jim Steele, has to say. He did the job for a while. He knows, a lot about the town, perhaps more than all of you, because he actually was the interim manager for some months. So, a lot of times when I would have something that I might call Jim, or we would bump into each other and we talk about it a little bit. But I really do feel that we need a stability we haven't had. And I think it's important that if we can find a good full-time finance director, that we have one. I agree with Ed. That's not something to be.
Can I ask a question? Subject to what you might have found this changed. Are all of the adjustments and everything that's known reflected in these financial statements that we have?
That was my understanding. I did not expect cash to change, so I apologize for that. I'm going to go back and figure out what that $14,000 change was.
Okay, but other
Because
than
these
that,
both came from the auditors, and I said, hey, the first draft that you sent didn't have that management discussion and analysis. Can we get that in? And was sent this second version without the knowledge that I didn't feel I had, needed to go through and check every single number. But obviously, I have 7 individuals that did the checking for me. So,
Craig, I know that you've worked with auditors in the past. I'm going to ask you a general question. On a scale of 1 to 10, what's your opinion of the relationship and the competency and the capabilities of our current audit?
find the record with this. They are a great firm. I've worked with them on other clients and engagements. I do think that auditors sometimes can be the solution as well as the problem. And so, I think that a scale of 1 to 10, I was getting very political by not answering the question, but I'll answer it. They're a 6 when it comes to what I've seen with this. Yeah,
Isn't their contract up after this audit?
I believe so. I will tell you, gentlemen, I mean, if in case you don't know it, I mean, finding an audit firm to do the work, finding a finance director, whether part-time or full-time, I'm an employer, and it's not like, good, solid, qualified people are knocking down our doors and falling off of trees and coming. But that's not to say you shouldn't stop looking. So, I do think that, there are 6 this year. That's not to say we can't have a good, stern discussion with them and get them to the 8, 9, or 10 that they should be and can be, frankly. I think part of it, like I said, it's I'm the 3rd individual dealing with them on this audit engagement. I'm sure they're getting a little, leery on or frustrated with the transition from our side as well. They're having to explain things, the 3rd time to me.
and maybe somebody up here can answer, when is the audit usually done? I mean, when is it usually started and finished?
In Fort Myers Beach or anywhere else?
Fort Myers Beach, yes.
In Fort Myers Beach, it's been as late as last year. It was in the middle of the
last
summer.
year's statement here. And it was signed April 13th. But that's not to say that when it, when it came to you.
But we had to get the state statute requires it to be completed in 6 months, right? Should be completed in 6 months,
March 31st.
which is March 31. Last year, it was necessary to get an approval from the state because we went beyond the 6-month period. There was some sort of a waiver of some sort, as I recall.
Correct.
Wasn't completed till summer. Been 3 years in a row when there have been extensive delays. It was either changeover of employees, it was a changeover of the software, it was the changeover of the hardware. It was always that hasn't been timely in the last 3 or 4 years, very frankly.
I spent several years in public accounting, and mine was all with manufacturing type firms, and those, they want the report within 60 days. Now, you can't always do that, but
Yeah. No, trust me, the audit firm, they don't want to, have to be in here and during their busy season, during January through
Right.
April. And I think a well-run finance department, with a September year end, you can have those September books closed by, October, get the auditors in November and December and, have a draft by
that was
the end
kind
of
of
the
in
year.
the back of my mind, but
Right.
that's what the
That's what
timing
the
should
timing
be.
should be. Correct. And that's what the team upstairs is working towards future, and what, Sherry and I are having discussions about is making sure that happens.
You mentioned earlier that you might want to comment on some highlights here. Would you care to do that? I mean, is anybody like to hear that?
I just want to, we just went through it, Roger explained, and I remember him explaining it to the council in meetings about renegotiating and why it was done. But that to me would be a significant piece of information that should have showed up on something we read, so that we wouldn't have found that out by having a discussion, Roger recalling what what happened during this year when he did this. And those are things I don't see in this report anywhere. And to me, that's material to me. Well, it feeds me that and the $14,000 error. I just don't have confidence in what I'm reading here from that auditor.
Chairman, comment. Started out by saying you wanted us to accept this audit report. Is that correct?
Correct.
Out official reports of the auditors, findings, and so on. I wonder if there's some way, and what were you going to do with that?
What was I going to do with?
If we accepted it, what did that do for
If you accepted it the way that it stands right now, and I work with the auditors, Mr. Lang, to, finalize it, if you will, to actually look like a draft that you would typically look at, I would then provide you with that updated draft and identify, here are the only pages that you didn't see, or the numbers that that have changed, and the explanations behind that. To kind of put a listing, a reconciliation between this that you would accept and the final version, which I would give my stamp on.
Mr. Chairman.
And Dick, and one other thing, when we give you those pages, if you feel at that point in time, there's a need, Peg will reach out to each one of you. So that there's a need to reconvene, plus you're uncomfortable with any of those information in those pages, then we will reconvene. Feel that
Is a miss.
acceptable to you at that point, then we'll proceed to the next step, which would be to bring it to the council. You could either you could make the decision to reconvene right now. You could wait to see it and make a decision whether you need to reconvene. It's basically the choice. We're fine with either
Oh,
way.
Mr. Chairman, perhaps there's a compromise here that might work if we would approve these things conditionally upon receiving the audit reports from the auditors, the opinions and management.
Yes, that's in effect what's
Letters.
being suggested, yes. Um,
I didn't hear the word conditional.
Well, yeah, that would be the correct way of putting it, Dick.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, but there's a question,
Ed?
even to the accuracy of what we have. How can we approve something that we know is basically inaccurate, at least in one instance?
When would you anticipate that the final information would be available?
I thought it was going to be available today if you would have asked me a couple weeks ago. So I know that I will work like heck to get it done this week.
I would suggest we consider reconvening, go over the revised material before we accept it.
I mean, we haven't had a chance to read the MD&A.
Have you,
It just came this morning.
for the plans on, at which time were you hoping to submit this to council?
For the next month council meeting.
The June meeting?
Which is when? Well, reconvening may be the right answer if we can get
Yeah.
everybody together. But we need to know when the lawyer is going to
Right.
report.
Well, like I said, he said today is when he was going to be getting his letter back to the auditors. So some moving parts there, but
Shouldn't be a major delay on that. I wrote a lot of those in my day, and it's a matter of enumerating what's going on.
shouldn't be, but
Right. Well, there's two suggestions here. One is accepting it today on a conditional basis, subject to review of the revisions. The other is to continue this meeting and until we actually get the documentation.
if you
I
did subject to
personally
the
don't-
conditions, I mean, I would figure out what were the differences between version 1 and version 2, if that would please anyone. I
Very,
hate to make you come back for,
I'm very uneasy about accepting something conditionally, which I know is wrong on its face, so in at least one instance. And when we're so close to having a better document to look at, I think Jim's got the right idea. I'm willing to reconvene at some point.
About June 3rd, Thursday.
Are you suggesting, Jim?
Reconvene June 3rd. Does or earlier, because you need to send out the council's packet.
they'll need at least a week.
Well, I think it's a little troubling to us that it's already been 6 months and now we're being asked to approve something conditionally that,
Yes.
and
June 1st is a week from
suddenly it's
today.
gotta go right ahead.
Jim's idea, excuse me, Jim's idea is fine if that's a good date for everybody. And when we send it out to you, we're going to send it out to the council because it's not going to, the version we send you and the version we send the council is not going to be any different. So the only thing is that we're going to have we'll have the blue sheet that's saying that you guys met on June, whatever that date is. View it. So if that's a good date for everybody and that's what makes everyone feel comfortable, I don't want you to approve this if you don't. I want you to feel comfortable with it because I think the council gives a lot of ability to your review and hopefully support. So,
Well, let's take a
If there's
poll
a
here.
date that you're all,
Yeah.
will work, we can definitely do that.
Send the packet out a week early?
I mean,
The
if you
council?
could get it, yeah, if you could back it out a week would be best. So if you did like June 1st would be
June
best.
1st. Try June 1st.
What day of the week?
Tuesday?
Is it like a Tuesday?
Tuesday?
Yeah.
Next Tuesday.
I'm okay with it.
Come on.
Brian,
Sir.
how's that? What's your preference?
I would rather reconvene.
All right, Dick?
I'm okay, and I'm okay for the first.
I see no point in doing it. I say we reconvene, only have the right materials to look at. I'm good for June 1.
Okay.
I'm
Yeah,
good with the
you
first.
made your
I'm
point.
good, June 1st.
I'm good, as long as we have something to
All right.
review.
Is that date then, with, Greg, how's it with your staff?
Make it good.
9 AM? All right, we'll come back to this and make a motion ultimately on that, but, is there anything else you'd want to comment on what we've got today?
No, actually, after the comment of the discrepancy, I'm going back to the auditors with this one, so I'll be ready next Tuesday.
I'd entertain a motion to continue this matter to Tuesday, June 1 at 9 AM for the sole purpose of reviewing the audit.
Moved. Cody.
Moved by Dick
Second.
Cody,
Second.
second by Ed Lombard, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None opposed, unanimously approved. All right, now that we've resolved that matter in our usual efficient way, lost my agenda. Member items and reports. Are there any, in that November meeting, or what, maybe it was, I think it was the November meeting. We were all confused about when the hell our terms were, and you recall that? And
I thought I thought I said something on after that that sort of resolved that.
You did, but I hope that the town,
Amy sent it to me.
are we in sync on that? Everybody knows?
Yeah.
Oh. Okay. Anybody have anything else on member
I
items?
think, by the way, that pretty much concluded that
What?
the five of us were, or, no, I don't know if John was, but the four of us were part of the original.
Original members, yes.
original members.
I was the kid that was added later.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you became the fifth, John.
I could use a fifth. I do have one thing though, Dan. I'd like to, and I don't know if it's Sherry or Craig, but obviously there's been some turnover up there. There's been some changes. I'd like you to ask Roger or someone to put together what the current configuration of the finance office is and what's being recruited, just so we have some idea.
Good idea.
That's an excellent idea, John, and, I find it a little disconcerting that we've only got 2 or 3 people up there, and all of a sudden, the manager is telling us we're looking for 5 or 6 new people, or, to me, that's either an indication that we're terribly understaffed now. To go from where we are to where they're proposing is quite a significant change in personnel. Care to comment on that, Craig?
Yeah. I don't disagree. You know, when I came in, it was partially to help out as an interim finance director basis, as well as just do an overall assessment of the people, the processes, and the systems. And I'll tell you that a majority of individuals up there, Sherry's the exception, have governmental experience, governmental background. And in case you don't know, I'm sure you do, Mr. Steele, is it's a different world. It's a different animal. I mean, coming from the for-profit world and then looking at, you know, MD&As and you know, government and business types of activities, it's different. It's not to say that it can't be learned. You know, debits are still debits and credits are still credits, but it takes time. And you know, where I said, you know, I think the leadership of a consistency from the finance director is important. You know, unfortunately, we didn't have that this last fiscal year, and I hope that we do soon. So I know that, you know, Roger's thoughts are good to, you know, say let's find everybody we can to help and see who, you know, is kind of the shining stars at the end of it, and the cream rises to the top. But I know that it's a tough industry, a tough profession to find good, solid candidates. You know, we're going through it in our firm. So,
Just a footnote on that, Craig. Since we put the new system in, I believe 3+ years ago, we have been asking for operating procedures up there, manuals, et cetera, for consistency. And every month we ask, we get, yeah, we're working on it, but it's not a priority. And I think that's part of the problem is there is nothing as people turn over to look at. It starts from scratch each time. So when they put this organization together, it starts at the top, starting to bring in staff without having someone in there at the director level that says, this is how we operate, will do us no good. It's just an opinion.
I agree with that.
and can up here.
An auditor, an intern district, as well as a business analyst in computer information systems. I have written manual. I've been a trainer. I've been an auditor and a business analyst to look at processes, and that will be my goal. Is I want things documented. This should run like a top. Every month we do the same thing, being able to provide you with the reports every single time. This information. That's what I'm coming here to do. You have governmental experience. I think you said that
Right,
backwards.
right.
They don't, I do.
Oh, sorry if I said that. My bad.
Right,
She's
thank
on her
you.
second week, or
Yes.
third week. This starts her third week, so. Point, Mr.
Just add one other thing, monthly financial statements.
Yes.
Yeah, that,
Keep
That's
We
asking.
need those.
okay,
Those would be great.
Yes.
all right. Any other member items? Gentlemen? None? Public comment? Yes, Mayor Murphy.
I want to make one point to your, doesn't really pertain to the finance committee, say, the audit committee, but it is interrelated. In order for us to remain competitive with with this hiring environment that we're in right now, I think the town, I've done a little cursory review of the town benefits where we're lacking tuition reimbursement for employees. I think to make us more competitive in the market, to attract people and also to retain people, we have to offer that as a benefit. This way we can bring our own people up through our system, send them to school, and hopefully retain them after they get their certifications or degrees. So I'm going to bring that forward to the town council, and hopefully they'll agree with me, and we'll be able to review that a little more, see what else is out in the marketplace with the other cities and counties and so forth, and kind of we don't have to reinvent the wheel, but I think if we offered some sort of package, that'll make us more competitive, particularly in the finance area.
It did go along with that. As you know, Chelsea, Public Director of Public Works, had her master's, and there was barely an acknowledgement of it, and certainly no monetary financial benefit to her doing all that extra work. So there's a quality staff that, you know, you could quite frankly lose because you had no monetary recognition of that achievement.
Exactly. There's another member in the water department right now going through the program as well. And, but that's just what we have so far. But to attract and to maintain and retain, I think we need to look at that. And so whether we do that through the management and planning or whatever, however they want to do it, but I'm going to bring it forward. Other than that, I don't have anything else.
That's a good plan, Mr. Mayor. I hope you have success with the rest of your council on that.
So do I. And just another comment is, you have to look at all of the benefits that other towns are providing.
Exactly.
Not just that, because
Exactly.
to see whether we're competitive with.
Exactly. But that one sticks out like a sore
Yeah,
thumb, Dick, you know, and you're right. I mean, we really do have to look at all of them. And, I mean, I never really got involved in this part of it because that's not really my function, you know, but the way the market is these days and as hostile as it is for, you know, attracting employees and so forth, I find myself looking at all kinds of things now.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, we've spent most of our time on administrative matters, and well, hopefully at next week we can be looking at the audit itself and the substance of the audit, and get these other matters out of the way to some extent. We've set the next meeting agenda and date, Roman numeral 8. I believe that concludes our business for the day. Unless anyone has anything further.
I move we now adjourn.
Motion by Ed Lombard to adjourn.
Second, Cody.
Second by Dick Cody. All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned at 10 o'clock, 10:04.